Hi, this is Nikki and Claire again from the Grow Institute. Sorry we haven't been with you for some time, but we've been busy, as everybody is in horticulture at this time of year, in spite of the COVID-19 situation. I've been busy at work with Virtual Chelsea and all sorts of other things, podcasts for the RHS, and Claire has been busy marking, I believe, have you not?
The delight, the delight. Yeah.
Yes, Claire's been marking dissertations for final year garden design degree students.
Yes, it's been very rewarding actually. A good cohort to finish off the year with. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Your paperwork done now.
Almost. But it's been particularly lovely putting this together because it's kind of freestyle, talking about plants, which and looking at all these lovely pictures. So it's been really a delight putting this together.
And also, since the last time we did one, the season has changed. We're now in summer, and hopefully this will show what summer can be. So if we go on to the next slide.
Okay, so Lavandula angustifolia hidcote, classic cottage garden plant. Everybody knows about lavender, and it's looking particularly gorgeous in this front garden. So again, this is our COVID walks. I just thought this was a really well kept, fairly young, obviously, lavender hedge with loads of bees. You can see those little black dots on there, bumblebees, predominantly bumblebees, interestingly.
Fabulous. And that really showcases how good lavender is as a low hedge, rather than just being planted as one plant on its own.
Yeah.
The impact of having all of those plants in a row is significant, isn't it?
And the idea of having a hedge doesn't have to be really tall. It's just by the front door, so it's very welcoming, inviting. It directs people to the front door in a very lovely way, quite a gentle way, but it means that people can look over the top and just see what's going on. So in that front garden, they were also growing their vegetables, so I could see what was going on. It doesn't obscure the view, it stops people from walking over there, but doesn't stop you from looking.
It's not a screen, it's a boundary marker almost, and a fragrant one. Brings pollinators into the garden for their vegetable plants to be pollinated.
Yeah, so it's very successful. And also once this is clipped, this will be quite a formal edging in winter. So that's why lavender is quite good. There's something interesting in there. Most of this is hidcote, and we know that, we've talked about it, because it's compact and the flower spikes are dark purple, but just as you go in, there's one rogue one. So it's not quite, and obviously I haven't walked in their front garden to go and have a look at that.
To the relief of the homeowners, I would imagine.
Yeah. So there is a little rogue one in there.
I quite like that. It almost makes it look like a stream, doesn't it? A different colour.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. I think that's actually quite cool. I don't know whether the people that planted it do, but
yeah,
I think
it will be interesting to know if they did it accidentally on purpose, or whether that's the importance about labelling as well. If you wanted it all to be the same, you sometimes can't identify plants in winter, so labelling is important.
Key. Right, what have we got next then?
Okay, Rosa rugosa, Sarah Van Fleet.
We don't know that this is Sarah Van Fleet. We've had a guess at it. It's definitely a Rosa rugosa form.
Yeah.
This is one of Claire's walks. So you said it's very fragrant.
Yeah, super fragrant. So again, I'm always talking about fragrance, but it is something on the walks that's still very prominent. But the first picture gives you an indication of the scale. So we've got the Choisia tonata Sundance, and then we have next to it the Rosa rugosa, and it's quite high. So that's the entrance. That's the gate. So that's about
2 meters, isn't it?
Yes, at least 6 foot. So it's a pretty robust. It's flowering above the hedge, the fence line, which is great. Just loads and loads of flowers, really, really scented.
Repeat flowering, which I think is so important with roses. That I can't be doing with roses that just flower once and then I'm not a big fan of the whole hybrid tea thing. And apologies that we can't identify this accurately, but there are many, many thousands of roses and just, yeah, that's a best guess. And
I
we're
mean, I
probably
really wanted to I really wanted to capture all the lovely roses, but then I thought, well, that's great. It'd just be a slideshow of really fantastic colours. I wouldn't. It'd be very difficult to identify them, but I could appreciate and like to talk about the beauty of them and the types.
also with the Rosa rugosa types, cultivars. They're so much more disease resistant than a lot of the hybrid tea or floribunda hybrids, aren't they? That, you know, you can see from this one in the foliage, there's no hint of black spot or rust. It doesn't appear to even have any aphids on the flower buds, does it?
No. And I really like Rosa rugosa because it's not fussy, but I can clip it as a hedge. I could have it on its own, but generally when I've planted it, I'm not. The one that I was taught years ago and the one that I use the most is Blanc de Coubert. Super scented, white, with peat flowering like they all are. Fantastic rose hips.
Rose hips are the thing, aren't they, as well? So you can cut them down quite late, can't you? So you could cut them down in March and you can cut them down really hard and they still put on all of this growth the following year with all of this flower, but you get these huge rose hips through the winter, don't you, that are just amazing.
Super robust. Love Rosa rugosa, no fuss. You know, it's doing its job for me. I don't have to kind of look after it. So
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Right, what have we got next? Oh, now we both picked this one, which was quite interesting because we don't generally have a huge amount of crossover on our COVID walks for reasons that we can't explain. But this is Cornus Kousa. I'm not sure that it is a cultivar of Cornus Kousa on the left. They do sometimes have a little bit of pink in the flower, and there's cultivars like Miss Satumi, isn't there, that are much more pink. But what a fabulous tree for a small garden.
Yeah. And I love the way that it organises itself. So it has the perfect coverage of the flowers are arranged. Well, actually, they're bracts, aren't they? Yeah. Arranged and organised like in a perfect way, so they get the maximum amount of light. It's a lovely layered habit to the plant, very classy, a good focal point plant.
Yeah, almost like it is layered, isn't it? Almost like a cake in tiers, and actually they're not particularly fussy about soil type. You know, they don't like good soil, but they don't doesn't have to be ericaceous or something, for example. But I think the reason that they're not planted for as widely as they could be is maybe because they are very slow growing or quite slow growing.
Yeah.
So
they're very showy, but you're right. There's something about they're not an instant gratification. They're taking a while to come about. I've planted them in front gardens or close to the house so that people can really appreciate them in areas of kind of high traffic so that people can really appreciate them when they come out. I haven't put them in the backwater. I think they're quite special.
Yeah, and they do deserve to be a focal point, don't they? And they look, I think, quite exotic and unusual. So it's not going to be, you know, you can get flowering cherries for your garden and a front garden and all sorts of trees like that are very commonly planted, but I think this is overlooked, actually.
Yeah, I do. So next one. Oh, good autumn colour.
Yes, actually,
and actually the seed heads. You know, there's a lot to be said.
Got a lot going for it.
Interesting is this capturing these plants over a period of time again. So that's
yeah, because we can go back and look at these in the autumn and look at the different. They get quite reddy orange, don't they? Autumn colour, if it's a good year. So they're fabulous little trees, or some people possibly call them shrubs. I don't
Small shrubs, small trees. I mean, there's one for the RHS to work out. I don't know what category to put that in.
Right, that's the day job. Let's carry on.
Yeah, bye. Ooh, very pretty. This is one of yours.
Yeah, so we've had almost no rain down here for weeks and weeks and weeks. I think this is Eryngium borgatii, but it could be an Eryngium called, I think it's called Big Blue, but whatever the cultivar is. So this is growing on a dry wall, and it's so luminous, the flower spikes, and well, they're bracts as well, but fabulous plant, and it shines in as the sun gets on it, and it doesn't need any attention particularly. Cut it back in the autumn. It's a herbaceous perennial.
Yeah, I was looking.
So fabulous.
Yes, it's the radiance, the luminosity, and I was looking at Verbena bonariensis at about 9 o'clock last night, and again there was something really luminous about that. You might know this, isn't it that they Verbena attracts moths, so that's what has that luminosity. I don't know, I'd have to check that.
No idea why you think I'm a moth expert, but,
I know, but
I'll just nod.
Oh God, I have to put that on the list. But I think there is something about that.
Yeah, there could well be, because they feed at different times, don't they? But I don't know, because I am not a moth expert. But I nevertheless love Eryngium borgatii, and actually the foliage is quite thistle-like, but it has lots of silver veining in it. So you get the silver veining in the leaf going up to this silver and then luminous blue, and it's just a fantastic plant and great for coastal planting as well.
See, whenever I see this, I always think of the beach, and there's this. I love that steeliness to that blue foliage.
Yeah, so and they are as spiky as they look.
Yeah, and it lends itself to kind of pared back, almost minimalist planting in some ways. It's quite stark, so really fascinating, engaging plant.
I utterly agree with you on that. Normally I would say, that whole, you could have a drift of it in a gravel garden, I think, but with the geranium Johnson's Blue, by the looks of it, isn't it?
Yeah, just up there.
It actually looked fabulous. Everything else in that border was much more lush, typically cottage garden herbaceous, but this really stood out.
And I think you could probably push that both ways. It could be quite stark and minimalist, and it can be quite cottagey, and it can be quite coastal. Very Derek Jarman. I mean, there's an opportunity there, and also good seed heads, great for flower arranging.
Yeah, and so it's got a huge amount of uses. So get one is what I say.
Good for pollinators, I should imagine. It's Sicily.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's probably great, depending on the cultivar. Eryngium planum is. I don't know why I'm looking so close to the screen, but I was. I don't know that borgatii would be as good as Eryngium planum or something like that. But yeah.
Gosh, we've been, loving the Eryngium. Blimey. Right, next. Campanula, over to you. Campanula
Porschiana, which we think is a posh person that goes skiing.
Yes, I think the foliage on this is quite interesting compared to the other campanulas you see.
Yeah, so it is quite a variable plant in itself, that it does range from sort of blue to purple. So you will often see the purple, isn't it? Will grow in walls, but these are both growing in pots. So the one on the left, the pot is probably about 75 centimeters tall, and I grow this at the bottom of a Acer Shinishojo, so that it just What are you laughing at
I just
now?
love that. I just love that bit of a pronunciation.
You saying my Japanese isn't great?
I
What?
love it. Next to you, Yakushimanum.
Oh God, yeah, you spotted when we. Yeah,
Oh
well
yeah.
done.
I
She
listen. I
remembered.
listen to you. You know.
But it just trails, and it fills up all the bare earth at the top of a pot. It's a huge pot, so it just makes the whole thing flow and look more interesting. And on the right, I've done the same thing with a really badly shaped Acer palmatum aureum that lost its main stem, so it's really crooked. But actually, with the campanula growing over it, it looks really good.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
It's an easy plant to grow. It can be invasive in a border,
Yeah.
but sometimes you want that. It's great ground cover. It flowers for a long time. If you don't like weeding.
Yeah, I think sometimes that invasive thing, you can pick and choose. You can weed. You have to just manage it out. It's better than
Yeah.
having bare ground, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Particularly like campanula, softening edges and crevices, cracks, if you can get it to grow in places, and then hoe it out when you don't like it. So
Yeah.
that's all fine by me. It's good.
Yeah, it's a really good plant, and yes, it can go a little bit mad, but in those sort of dry, awkward corners, I think it's brilliant. Also, top tip: when the campanula wilts in the pot, I know I need to water
Poor old,
because
poor
it
old
comes
campanula.
back within minutes. So yeah, it gets quite badly treated.
It's a barometer.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's interesting. Well, hollyhocks.
So we were saying earlier, or I was saying earlier, that I don't like hollyhocks in the garden because they get hollyhock rust and you have to stake them, and they're just so much trouble, or it feels like there's so much trouble. That this one has self-seeded in the pavement, is completely upright, without any need for staking, and not a sign of rust on it, and looking gorgeous.
And it's out on it's out in the road.
Yeah.
There's some, but what's really interesting about that, it's grown. So in London, the whole of the lockdown, it's grown. No one's weeded it out. No one on the street has come and taken the weeds away, and it's grown to its maximum height and flowered. I've got Verbena bonariensis in the road, in the pavement now, which is full whack, which is really, that would have been sprayed off.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an indication of how long lockdown has been going on for.
And actually, you know, if that results in a lot more self-set hollyhocks than on Verbena, I think that's all right.
I used to, as a child, you get lovely colours, don't you? You get the black ones, and you get all sorts.
Really dark ones.
There was one on the corner as a child. They're like flowers, are like shuttlecocks, and I used to just pick them off. So I was particularly interested in looking at these buds last night. So those two are Nikki's, and then I was taking pictures of hollyhocks near me last night. I like it. Real another kind of granny old cottage garden plant.
Yeah, but actually, I think if we weren't, like you say, spraying the pavements and everything, there'd be a lot more of them. They self-set quite easily. They clearly don't need a rich and fertile soil. So they just need a crack in the pavement and everybody to ignore them, and then they won't get rust.
I can see there's an elderflower in the back there as well.
Yes, I know. Yeah,
that's
I know.
It's all going
bigger
on
by the day.
I could just do a whole lecture just on stuff I'm finding in paving cracks, because I'm really interesting.
Yeah, it is quite interesting, isn't it?
Like whole trees which
and all sorts of things.
Yeah, amazing stuff.
But that's my tallest one so far.
Oh, so
a little bit of bog garden.
Yeah, Iris pseudochorus. So this is in my local park, and it's really, really tall iris that likes boggy areas. But actually, because it's quite thuggish, I noticed it once I started seeing it. I saw it all over the place, and it was growing in all sorts of dry places, water's edge, not so boggy. So when it's not so boggy, it's shorter, which is why I could see into the top of that iris and I could take that photograph. But when it's got everything it needs, it's about 1.5 meters tall. So I thought that was quite an interesting thing. And this picture at the end, there's a rogue iris that turned up just underneath where what are they called? The water.
But I wanted to
forms.
say rubber ring then, but that's not right, is it?
But it's not there anyway, it's been stolen. But I just thought, that was kind of a lovely combination. But in that lower iris, I just watched the bees going in and out. People obviously think I'm slightly peculiar. Lots of video of bees going in and out of that iris. But lovely, long, tall, strappy leaves, really strong plant.
And a good indicator, like you say, of damp ground, slightly boggy ground. And if you've got an area like that, it's a really good plant for that place, isn't it?
Last night, I was telling you earlier that Andrew was playing in the skate park, and he zips off out to play with some little girls, and they went for just a little bit too long, and I saw some of these iris, and I thought, oh, it might be boggy, and I was right. It was. They were just jumping over a little stream. It just made me think, right, I just need to check what he's up to. Yeah.
But also a good indicator of when your children are misbehaving.
Yeah, and I didn't want to clean his boots. Basically,
Yeah.
I did think about that. I just thought, don't jump in that big muddy bit, because I don't want to do it.
Yeah, but a complete opposite in a way to the eryngium, that one, wasn't it? One's for like really dry places, one for the wet places. Oh, now we had a chat about this earlier, didn't we?
Yes, I'm really lucky. The park, because Andrew doesn't want to keep going around the streets. So we're in the park a bit more, and we have a lovely garden, loads of roses. But this Phlomis Vassiliana is in full flow, and there's lots of creamy yellows in there. So I've taken a picture so you can see the context. It's quite large, handsome plant, about a metre and a half, I would say. With these lovely heart-shaped leaves and these candelabra kind of like stacked flowers, hooded yellow flowers on these heart-shaped leaves. Really fascinating, engaging. I really got into having a look at all the little starry patterns on there. Just really thoroughly enjoyed looking at it, and the bees going in and out. So I was really surprised to hear when you said that. I can't hear you.
Well, yes. So I actually, can I just firstly say, I love that photo on the left. That is so calming, isn't it? Just the Phlomis going into the iris.
Yeah.
That's just, I can just have a little nap now, and that's lovely. But yes, Phlomis Wesleyana is quite commonly used in landscape design because it's not a particularly fussy plant. It has lots of benefits. It's really good weed suppressing, it's clump forming, it flowers for a long time, it's good for pollinators. You can leave the seed heads on quite late, so it's good for birds. And I would say that on several occasions during the course of work, I've been to communal gardens where it's been used, and people hate it. And I don't know why. I really don't know why.
I think it's quite coarse. The leaves are quite coarse, aren't they? And the whole yellow thing.
Yes, yeah, that I hate yellow, which it's not. I wouldn't have thought it was bright enough to hate, but
I thought it was creamy yellow, so it is interesting. There is something a bit a touch scruffy about it. I am surprised though that people hate it.
But I would say it's one of the plants that comes up again and again as people want rid of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It's drought resistant. It's got a lot going for it, and if it's used right, so for example near Nepeta or like you've got in that picture, it's got looks like stachys at the back, doesn't it, as well?
stachys there, and a bit of euonymus.
So
You can
it's
see it's
just,
kind of self-seeding around here. It's kind of and along the paving, it's kind of moving around.
I quite like that. I think that makes it look quite natural, but maybe
Yeah.
that's what people don't like about it. I don't know. Maybe it looks too much like a dead nettle, too much like a weed.
Yes. I know what you mean. Just an extra large one.
If you have any thoughts on whether it's a love it or hate it, it's obviously a Marmite plant. Let us know.
Fantastic seed heads, like really great structure, winter structure. Um, so he looks quite good with grasses as well in the winter.
Yeah, with the frost on it, doesn't it? It just looks
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely amazing. But obviously, we are of the we love it
yeah.
variety.
Obviously we're really going for it today.
But clearly, other people don't. So yes, let's we'll leave that one hanging and move on.
So I've been walking past this one for years, and there's something about it that I go, yeah, I kind of meant to like it more. I I think it might be the way that it's planted here, the railings. It could be seen as a bit fun. I know people like the name, they remember it. When I taking photographs and touching and rubbing the leaves, it's really pungent. It's not a great smell. So I'm underwhelmed by it. There's a lot of raving.
It's got a lot of good points. I think there's better ones. It flowers for a long time.
Yeah. We're digging around now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Come on.
It flowers for a long
Yes,
time.
it does for a really, really long
Yeah.
time. In London, this is going, dribs and
Till
drabs
November
November.
often. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as bang for your buck, and they probably paid, I don't know, £8 for that plant, and they get quite big, and
Yeah.
they are hardier than people give them credit for. It's often better not to cut them down till the spring. If you leave all the growth on over winter, that gives them protection at the crown. Cut them right back to the ground and let all of that growth come again, you get better flower. But there's some really nice I think what I don't like about it is the bicolour. There's some pinks and blues, there's lots of salvia nemorosa and things that look fabulous flower for just as long. I just find I don't know what I don't like,
and I
because it
wonder,
looks good. I don't know why I can't take
but
to
I
it.
wonder if it's because of the picket fence, the terracotta. It's the context as well. That's really tall. That's 1.5 meters.
Yeah, and a lot of them will put
I,
on that sort of growth every
I
year.
must be taller than 1.5 meters, surely. I do hope I am. I have to check that. I'm always going on about measuring with scale. I'm thinking, oh gosh, I've got to be taller than that.
But
Right.
actually, if you've got a sunny, even fairly dry spot, once they're established, they don't like to be wet. Definitely,
No.
It fills a massive gap, doesn't it? And it has that flowering from, to flower from May to November, because that is one of the most annoying questions, isn't it? You get asked, is I want something that flowers all year round.
Is it annoying?
Annoying. It's just a little bit annoying. So this is probably the nearest you'll get, frankly.
Yeah. What's the
So
other one that does it? Erisiums. I'm not going to ask you. Erisiums flower for a really long time.
they do, yes.
Can I go on to the next one?
Yes, and that's the last thing we'll say about Elysiums.
Right. Well, this was covered in bees, so
This.
I'm obsessed with bees, and I just like, torturing my son and making him look at bees. But I don't know much about he-bees because I haven't specified many in my time because I'm not that interested in them. They're very workaday, and I just think, oh, I cannot find other workaday plants that,
Fit the brief better.
yes, but then you've got to say that, that's a really big flush of colour and it's very vibrant and it's doing a fantastic job. I looked up Midsummer Beauty and I can't really tell from this photo. I think the flower spikes on Midsummer Beauty might be longer. I can't tell.
No, and there's lots of very similar cultivars, and actually Hebes as a genus, there's quite a wide range. So you've got the Hebe salicifolia, which is very tall, easily get to 2 meters. You've got Hebe rachiensis, which is very short, very good for edging a border, albicans red edge and stuff. I like Hebes, but I only like them when they are, I would say I only like them when they looked after. They're one of those plants like lavender that if you don't prune them, then when they're not flowering, they look terrible.
Yeah.
So
I love hard pruning them.
Yeah, they have to be managed properly, or they don't actually live very long as well. You know, you really reduce the lifespan, and they become very woody, and you only get flower at the ends. And so they're a great plant. They're easy to grow, but they're not a plant that you can just ignore, I think.
Yeah, and I've always liked pruning them, because generally when I've gone to see them, that pruning is often so overdue that it probably dies anyway. After
it's got to be done every year, and from when you plant it, it's not something that you can miss for 3 years and go back and do. They don't regenerate that well from old wood, a lot of them. No. But bees and butterflies do love them.
Yeah. So, and I quite enjoyed seeing it. So scouting around looking for things, I thought, well, yeah, I'm not into Hebes, but that's probably worth showing. So,
and actually the flowers are beautiful, aren't they, when you look at them closely?
Yes. I mean, I've been enjoying taking really detailed photos, and then, you know, doing this scale, the different angles. You know, I must say it's one of my favourite things to do, is take pictures of plants just as well, really.
Right, what have we got next?
Right, Heromacalis. So in the same garden.
We're back to childbirth with this one, aren't we? Heromacalis fulva, or not? Is that not childbirth?
Oh dear. Strappy leaves, Heromacalis. I think they're this kind of dusty, apricot-y pink. You get the dark burgundy ones. I'm not that into the yellow ones. So strappy leaves in contrast with large leaves can be quite good.
I will just quickly say we aren't certain that is the species again of Hemocalis that this is. This was our best guess, and then obviously once we'd got to the word fulva and childbirth, we gave up because we were giggling too much.
Oh dear. But Heromacalis, I've always put them in places where it's a little bit dry. They tolerate it. They don't do their best, and so yes, I use them, and I'm often using them for contrast, and I might be planting quite a lot of them so that I'm having a big swathe. So for me, it's often about contrast, and I know that they can tough it out. It's not ideal to let them tough it out, but
what you're saying, about planting them in swathes, one Hemocalis on its own is just miserable. Because they don't actually flower for very long, so if you haven't got that mass of the sort of strappy leaf and one flower coming out after another, because they're called daylilies, aren't they?
Daylilies, yeah.
The flowers only last for about a day, and then they put another one out, but you don't tend to get a huge mass of flower. You just get this sort of I suppose it's quite a gentle flowering, isn't it?
And I think if the colour's quite interesting, that can be good. You get slightly minier ones, like slightly smaller ones, but then I'm not really fussed about those. I'm looking for kind of big, chunky swathes of this. And one of my clients thought they were quite funereal, a bit. So that was interesting. So there's certain clients. One client in particular didn't like them.
Actually, that's a good point. They're used quite a lot in cut flowers, aren't they?
Are they?
I think they are. So yeah, that's maybe Oh, well, that's a chirpy note to end on.
Yes, sorry about that. But let's look at the iris at the back there.
Yes.
Would I put the iris? So interesting strappy leaves. Okay, let's talk about that contrast. The Heramacalis strappy leaf is arching and falls over, whereas the
Iris is very upright, bladed,
upright.
isn't it? Yeah.
And so that's a really interesting contrast. So not all kind of strappy leaves are the same.
And actually, probably, I wouldn't have said they were a good planting combination, but actually they look, that photo looks really nice. Again, it's quite a calming photo, isn't it? It's quite a soothing.
I don't know what's in between the Heramacalis, and there's something in the middle that's a slightly low. Oh, I know what it was. It was a geranium, because I was laughing about it. I was wondering whether to take a photo, but I always remember how, when I was doing my degree, we always used to talk about how boring they are, geraniums. But now, as I'm aging, I just think, oh, aren't they useful?
Yes, we could do a whole podcast on geraniums, just on their own, actually.
Well, they'd be quite good.
Yeah.
Actually, if we can spot them.
So
there's an idea.
Yes, that is a good idea. I will note that down immediately in my sticky notepad.
Right. So that's us done, isn't it?
It is. It's us done for this one. But over the summer, we are going to do a series of online lectures and courses covering things like plant identification, seasonality, what plant where, sort of things you might do in a correspondence course. So I think you don't have to do all of them, or you could just pick one that you fancy. We've also looking at doing a similar thing for garden centres and horticultural societies. Probably, obviously, the end of the social distancing, and we'll continue with our consultancy and garden planning. If there's anything that you would be interested in speaking to us about for a course, or if you would like to take part in one, then just contact us at thegrow-institute@outlook.com, and we will send you a list of courses that we're doing, and you can book on them. So
I'm very excited. It gives us an opportunity to do the things that we love. You know, talking about plants is fantastic for me. It's one of my favourite things.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously it'll be things that we're interested in, but let us know what you're interested in as well. And hopefully the two will overlap. And apologies, hopefully by then I'll have had a haircut and I won't look like a sheepdog. Sally.
Anyway, it's raining here, so I don't even know if you can hear me. I've got rain pouring down the Velux window, so it might be super noisy.
Okay. Well, anyway, hopefully we'll be doing another one of these in the next couple of weeks. But as I say, in the meantime, contact us at thegrow-institute@outlook.com, and we will be putting stuff on Instagram as well, including the email address if you are interested in taking part in any of our talks or lectures.
Brilliant.
Good to see you. Bye, Claire.
Bye.